Divine motives to contentment. Consider the excellency of it. Contentment is a flower that does not grow in every garden. It teaches a man how, in the midst of want, to abound. You would think it were excellent if I could prescribe an antidote for poverty, but behold, here is that which is more excellent, for a man to want and yet have enough. This alone brings contentment of spirit. Contentment is a remedy against all our trouble, an alleviation to all our burdens. It's the cure of care. Contentment, though it's not properly a grace, it's rather a disposition of mind, yet in it there's a happy attitude and a mixture of all the graces. It's a most precious compound. It's made up of faith, patience, meekness, and humility, which are the ingredients put into contentment. There are 7 rare excellencies in contentment. First, a contented Christian carries heaven with him. For what is heaven but that sweet repose and full contentment that the soul has in God? In contentment, there are the first fruits of heaven. There are 2 things in a contented spirit which make it like heaven. God is there, and rest is there. God is there. Something of God is to be seen in that heart. A discontented Christian is like a rough, tempestuous sea. When the water is rough, you can see nothing there. But when it is smooth and serene, then you may behold your face in the water. Proverbs 27:19. When the heart rages through discontent, it's like a rough sea. You can see nothing there, unless passion and murmuring. There's nothing of God, nothing of heaven in that heart. But by virtue of contentment, it's like the sea when it's smooth and calm. There's a face shining there. You may see something of Christ in that heart, a representation of all the graces. Rest is there. Oh, what a Sabbath is kept in a contented heart. What a heaven. A contented Christian is like Noah in the ark. Though the ark was tossed with waves, Noah could sit and sing in the ark. The soul that has gotten into the ark of contentment sits quiet and sails above all the waves of trouble. He can sing in this spiritual ark. The wheels of the chariot move, but the axletree stirs not. The circumference of the heavens is carried about the earth, but the earth moves not out of its center. When we meet with motion and change in the creatures round about us, a contented spirit is not stirred nor moved out of its center. The sails of a windmill move with the wind, but the mill itself stands still, an emblem of contentment. When our outward estate moves with the wind of providence, yet the heart is settled through holy contentment. And when others are like quicksilver, shaking and trembling through disquiet, the contented spirit can say, as David, "My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises." Psalm 57:7. What is this but a piece of heaven? Second, whatever is defective in the creature is made up in contentment. A Christian may want the comforts that others have, the land and possessions, but God has instilled into his heart that contentment which is far better. In this sense, that's true of our Savior. He shall receive 100-fold. Matthew 19:29. Perhaps he that ventured all for Christ never had his house or land again. Yes, but God gives him a contented spirit, and this breeds such joy in the soul as is infinitely sweeter than all his houses and lands that he left for Christ. It was sad that David lost his outward comforts, being driven from his kingdom, yet in regard to that sweet contentment he found in God, he had more comfort than men had in the time of harvest and vintage. You have filled my heart with more joy than when grain and new wine abound. Psalm 4:7. One man has a house and land to live upon. Another has only a small trade, yet even that brings in a livelihood. A Christian may have little in the world, but he has learned contentment, and so he knows as well how to live without as he does how to live in abundance. Oh, the rare art, or rather miracle, of contentment. Wicked men are often disquieted in the enjoyment of all things. But how can a Christian learn to be contented when they lack outward comforts? A Christian finds contentment in God's promises. He is poor in purse, but rich in promise. There's one promise that brings much sweet contentment into the soul. They that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing. Psalm 34:10. If the thing we desire is good for us, we shall have it. If it's not good, then not having it is good for us. It's resting satisfied with the promise that gives contentment. Third, contentment makes a man in tune to serve God. It oils the wheels of the soul and makes it more agile and nimble. It composes the heart and makes it fit for prayer and meditation. How can he that is in grief or is discontent be devoted to the Lord without distraction? Contentment prepares and tunes the heart. First, you prepare the violin and wind up the strings, and you play fit music. When a Christian's heart is wound up to this heavenly frame of contentment, then it's fit for duty. A discontented Christian is like Saul, when the evil spirit came upon him. Oh, what jarrings and discords does he make in prayer! When an army is put into a disorder, then it's not fit for battle. When thoughts are scattered and distracted about the cares of this life, a man is not fit for devotion. Discontent takes the heart wholly away from God and fixes it upon the present trouble, so that a man's mind is not upon his prayer, but upon his cross. Discontent disjoints the soul, and it's impossible for a discontented Christian to go on steadily and cheerfully in God's service. Oh, how lame is his devotion! The discontented person gives God half duty, and his religion is nothing but bodily exercise. It needs the soul to animate it. David would not offer to God that which cost him nothing. 2 Samuel 24:24. In discontentment, there is too much worldly care and too little spiritual cost in a duty. The discontented person performs his duties halfway. He is just like Ephraim. Ephraim mixes himself with the Gentile nations, seeking favor with one country, then another. Ephraim is a cake not turned, worthless, ready to be thrown away. Hosea 7:8. He is a cake baked on one side. He gives God the outside, but not the spiritual part. His heart is not in his duty. He's baked on one side, but the other side, dough. And what profit is there of such incomplete services? He that gives God only the skin of worship, how can he expect more than the shell of comfort? Contentment brings the heart into frame, and only then, when the soul is composed, do we give God the flower and spirits of a duty. And then our heart is intent and serious. There are some duties which we can't perform as we ought without contentment. 1. To rejoice in God. How can he that is discontent rejoice? He's better fitted for complaining rather than rejoicing. 2. To be thankful for mercy. Can a discontented person be thankful? He can be only fretful, not thankful. 3. To be content with the providence of God. How can he who is discontented do this? He will sooner criticize God's wisdom than clear his justice. Oh then, how excellent is contentment, which prepares and strings the heart for duty. Indeed, contentment not only makes our duties light and agile, but acceptable to God. It's this that puts beauty and worth into them, for contentment settles the soul. As it is with milk, when it's always being stirred, you can make nothing of it. But let it settle a while, and then it turns to cream. When the heart is stirred, agitated, and discontent, you can make nothing of those duties. But when the heart is settled by holy contentment, now there's some worth in our duties. Now they turn to cream. Oh then, how excellent is contentment, which prepares and strings the heart for duty. Indeed, contentment not only makes our duties light and agile, but acceptable to God. It's this that puts beauty and worth into them, for contentment settles the soul. Fourth, contentment is the spiritual pillar of the soul. It prepares and enables a Christian to bear burdens. A contented Christian is like the chamomile plant. The more it's trampled upon, the more it grows. As medicine works disease out of the body, so contentment works trouble out of the heart. Thus it argues, if I'm unfairly criticized or reprimanded, God can vindicate me. If I am in want, God can relieve me. You shall not see wind, neither shall you see rain, yet the valley shall be filled with water. 2 Kings 3:17. Thus, holy contentment keeps the heart from fainting. In the autumn, when the fruit and leaves are blown off, still there is sap in the root. When there is autumn upon our external felicity or happiness, the leaves of our estate drop off. Still there is the sap of contentment in the heart. A Christian has life inwardly when his outward comforts don't blossom. The contented heart is never out of resilience. Contentment is a golden shield that beats back discouragements. Humility is like the lead put into the net, which keeps the soul down when it's rising through passion. And contentment is like the cork, which keeps the heart up when it's sinking through discouragements. Contentment is like the beam which bears whatever weight is laid upon it. Even more, it's like a rock that breaks the waves. It's strange to observe the same affliction lying upon two men, how differently they carry themselves under it. The contented Christian is like Samson, who carried away the gates of the city upon his back. He can go away with his cross cheerfully and makes nothing of it. The other is like Issachar, crouching down under his burden. Genesis 49:14. The reason is the one is discontent, and that breeds fainting. Discontent swells the grief, and grief breaks the heart. When the sacred sinew of contentment begins to shrink, we go limping under our afflictions. We don't know what burdens God may exercise us with. Let us therefore preserve contentment. As is our contentment, such will be our courage. David, with his 5 stones and his sling, defied Goliath and overcame him. Get contentment into the sling of your heart, and with this sacred stone you may both defy the world and conquer it. You may break those afflictions which otherwise would break you.